Engine 1 out, World Trade Center, 1060. Send every available ambulance, everything you got to the World Trade Center now.
Welcome to Burnt Out. The Burnt Out podcast shares the stories of firefighters, emergency personnel, and other first responders around the world to create a pathway to save lives. The stories you will hear are real and may be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. And now I'd like to introduce you to your host for Burnt Out, a 33-year retired veteran of the fire department, Skip O.
Hey, Sean, thank you for the introduction. We would also like to welcome you to the Burnout Podcast. We're a part of the Worldwide Peer Support. Our job here is to reach out, to grab somebody, and to bring them into our family. Worldwide Peer Support has support Zoom meetings on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. In fact, we have one of our guests today is a facilitator of one of those Zoom meetings, and she's also our guest for our Burnout Podcast today. I'd like to everybody welcome Tammy Mastin. She's from the East Coast, one of the biggest departments on the East Coast. She's a paramedic there for over 25 years. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's nice to be here. I appreciate it. And like you said earlier, you have Worldwide Peer Support. It's definitely has helped change my life. I mean, it's definitely a blessing to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And you're one of the, you're a light in a tunnel that's dark. When some people come on those Zoom meetings, they really like how you do those Zoom meetings for us. But before we go into that a little bit more, could you give me a little bit of background about yourself, about kids, husband, anything about that?
Absolutely. So I kind of started this profession. My dad was in the fire department for 30 some years in another jurisdiction than the one that I work in. And, just growing up and watching him and the brother and the sisterhood that he had, and plus just the adrenaline rush, him talking about the calls that he went on and things like that. So in my eyes, he was a hero. But I live in Maryland, and I have a daughter and a stepdaughter. My daughter is just turned 23. Yesterday was her birthday. And then I have a stepdaughter who's 17. And then I have a wonderful husband who is a captain in my department. And yeah, I mean, it's been a good life. I mean, I've been a paramedic I've been in EMS and all for about almost 30 years. And I really, I enjoy helping people. I enjoy being out there. Unfortunately, like right now, I'm not out in the field. I work up at our headquarters, and I really enjoy that. I enjoy still connecting with the community and being with people. I love chickens. I have pet chickens and 2 dogs. Because the chickens are truly like my therapy. I'm that crazy chicken lady, but I'm also a chicken tender, so I like that. But yeah, no, and I have 2 great dogs, and yeah, life is great. We take nice vacations. We like to travel and do things. So yeah, things are really well.
That's good. Well, Tammy, I know, getting on the department, you come from a background of first responders like I did. And that was a tradition, follow the footsteps of family members. I always wanted to be like my brother. He was a police officer. My other brother was a police officer. But when I rode with them, I saw all the paperwork they had to do. I said, it's not for me. And then getting on the fire department and watching the paramedics work, and I seen all the paperwork they had to do, I go, not for me. But when you got on the department, being a woman, was it kind of tough to kind of prove yourself and to just kind of, show them you could do the job? Did that have any bearing on when you got on?
Yes and no. I mean, I do remember like in fire aspect of the career, I definitely in my academy class, I was the weakest link with that. But the saying says you're only as strong as is the weakest link. And so you're only as, yeah. And so but I was able to get through it, and I did really well. And No, I really, in all honesty, I've never really have met any resistance or anything from male counterparts, um, because I just think my work speaks for itself. Um, you know, I feel I'm a very good paramedic. Um, I have a lot of knowledge. I've taught a lot of students to how to become a paramedic. And the thing that I always tell them is you'll never get in trouble for being nice, and as long as you use all your tools in your toolbox, you'll be okay. And also sometimes with this job, I tell people that it's okay to be confident. Confidence is great in this job, but never become cocky, because cocky is, and then when you start to make mistakes and do things and think that you're better or whatever. And I think that that's one reason I probably have never have had that, well, she's a girl type thing. I've never felt like that or was treated like that.
Well, that's good. One thing I do ask a lot of people, when you came on, being one of the long timers, did you have anything like peer support programs or anything when you came on?
No, I mean, it was very little talked about. Unfortunately, we had a SISM team back in the day, and it was, and a lot of people in the department really didn't trust the people that were on the team, and there was a lot of, somewhat negativity towards that. And to, like, now being involved in peer support, I feel like SISM, like, they were just boom right there in your face, and um, peer support's more peer support's more, give them some time. You let them know that you're there when they're ready, type thing. So yeah, we've come a long way. I'm a big part of the peer support team in my department. um, i'm the I'm one of the shift team leaders, and we're very lucky. We have a chief that is a huge advocate for mental and physical health, and she supports us 100%. So we're really lucky with that.
Well, Tammy, there's something that me and you can relate with. When you had your struggles through the years, and plus that one run, um, if you want to you don't have to describe that run if you don't want to, but it's your choice. What happened, and where did you have to do?
So, August 22nd, 8 years ago, I was doing a normal call on a summer night. My partner and I, we picked up a patient that the call came out as wasn't acting like themselves. We arrived. The police were on location. Patient seemed calm. Put him on the stretcher. We got some information. Get the patient, get her in the back of the medic unit, and police left because this patient appeared to be very calm, no issues. Um, and she was willing, to get in the medic, get on the stretcher, and allow us to take care of her. And then everything changed. My partner went to go start an IV, and she put the tourniquet on. And the next thing, um, she just, I'm not really sure what happened in her eyesight, but next thing I know, she roundhouse kicked me in the back of the ambulance and dislocated my shoulder. And then from there, I had some AC tears and things in my shoulder, and she continued to, it seemed like forever, to beat me up. She had bit my partner because my partner was trying to, like, hold her back. And she bit my partner and pushed my partner down into, like, the stairs, on the side where the side exit is and entrance is. And so yeah, it was a very terrifying, scary moment. I was unable to get the door open, to get myself out of that situation. Plus, my radio had been kicked off of me, so I was unable to call for help. Um, so then, once somehow, by the grace of God, and I truly say, I believe some higher power or something opened up that back door. She jumped out, and they were able to apprehend her, but come to find out, she was high on PCP, um, synthetic marijuana, bath salts, and so she had superhuman strength. And it was a very long recovery. I still suffer from some shoulder pain and discomfort. I have nerve issues in my right shoulder. But for me, I think the hardest part of that call was, yes, going through it. And then it didn't really affect me. And no one really ever said to me, like, how are you mentally? No one ever said that, but one person did say that to me. And I'd appreciated that person asking me that. But then what was hard on me was the months that I was out of work. And then the months, because you almost seem like, people kind of forgot about you. And then when I did return and went to late duty, I felt back then, I mean, it's gotten much better, but I was not treated very well. I was told by one individual that I was a nobody and to go sit in the corner. And, I have a big thing with that because I have some, childhood trauma as well. And that really affected me. And even still then, I didn't realize that it affected me. And I just kind of still continued to be, play the role of nice Tammy and just be me. And then about 3.5 years ago, started to be a lot of changes in my behavior. I started to get very angry. I was complaining a lot more, and I just wasn't happy with myself. So I sort of felt like I kind of took that out on others.
So when you started changing your behavior, did your husband or did somebody on the department, did they let you know about that? Did they call you out on it?
Yes, I mean, I had an issue where I kind of lashed out, and yeah, someone pulled me to the side and said, what is going on with you? And it was also like around that time, like holidays really affected me as well, because my husband's oldest daughter was killed by a drunk driver. And having to go through that, I mean, she was the most amazing person I've ever met. I loved her dearly, still love her dearly. And I was strong for everyone else. And I truly didn't get to have my grieving moment or go through that process because, I had to be strong for my husband. I had to be strong for my kids. And I wanted, to be everyone's rock. But then I wasn't treating myself the same as I was treating others. I was the last one to be taken care of. And I'm not, throwing a pity party, but that's, how I did. And so, yeah, I mean, my husband, I started to really my attitude had really changed. And my husband reached out to a friend of ours, named Adam, that he went to the Center of Excellence about a year prior and reached out to him and, also told me I should probably call him. And this friend, I feel like, is, Superman, and he really helped me. He contacted his therapist. It was Christmas, and his therapist called me. We talked, and he said that he feels that going to the Center of Excellence would be a good fit for me, because even if I just went to therapy every week, because I had taken 6 weeks off for a mental health break, my doctor had agreed that it was probably a good thing to do. And he suggested even if I went to therapy back and forth, then I'd go and sit home with my feelings by myself. And so he felt that if I was, I went to the Center of Excellence and I would have constant therapy, I'd be around people kind of with the same type of stories or going through the same things. And so, yeah, I mean, it changed my life. I dialed that number lots of times before I actually talked to someone.
Now, there's people out there, first responders, family members, you say the Center of Excellence. Could you explain a little bit what that is for firefighters at IAAFF?
The Center of Excellence is in Upper Marlboro, which I was very blessed with. It was kind of my back door. And so I was very lucky in that aspect. I didn't have to travel long distance and things like that. And back at the time, it was before COVID. But the Center of Excellence is a place that is for mental health and substance issues, strictly with first respond, like firefighters, EMTs, paramedics. And there were even some folks who were call takers, because if they're involved in some jurisdictions have their 911 operators are a part of their union. So, we forget about them. And so we had a lot, there were people that, I met from all over the United States at the center. The place is, they say it's like you get 6 hours a day for 6 days a week of therapy. And when you're done, it's about 6 years. I was there for 32 days. And they say when you're done that, it's about 6 years of therapy all in those 32 days. And it was fantastic. I mean, it was hard. When I say it was fantastic, I can say that now. But when I first went there, I was scared to death. My daughter drove me because I know the type of person I am. When I'm in situations, I run. I'm not staying in that situation. I want to leave. So I knew that with myself, and I didn't drive myself there because I knew that I would probably get in my car and leave. So yeah, it was, I was met at the door, and Miss Vonnie, her great big smile, and some of the others that were there kind of came in and welcomed me. My anxiety was through the roof. I was a nervous wreck. And then you go for the intake, which can sometimes be hard because you're kind of for the first time admitting that there's some problems. And so that can be that can be hard. But, and also I struggled a little bit in the beginning because when you first go there, they put you in like a med A or a med B, they put you in a room before you go to, you're put into a house with the other. And so for being a female, we had in house 3, we had our own room. And so I was there with 3 other females. And I know at other times, if there's more females, then they just use another house and use a room in the house. You had Mark on here, and I listened to that podcast. And, I always say that man is amazing. If departments were ran how that man does at the Center of Excellence, people wouldn't have any issues because he truly, I've seen him, like sit on there giving food. I'd seen him like filling the salt and pepper shakers. There was no task or job that he wouldn't do. And it just, it was just amazing.
Just to let everybody know, Mark is the director of the Center of Excellence, if you hadn't heard Mark's podcast. And Tammy's right. He's one of those, he's the director, but also he serves food, fills salt and pepper shakers. He orders it. He's just one of those guys that was in the Army for a couple of decades, and he's willing to do whatever job is. Tammy, I want to ask you something. I want to ask you, what was the hardest thing that you did there at the Center of Excellence, and what was the best thing that came out of it?
The hardest thing I did was taking care of myself.
So what kind of direction and tools did they give you and call you out on to take care of yourself?
Oh, I was called out on a lot of my bullshit. A lot of it. A lot of it. Because, I'm easy to like hide against things. I was called out on my bullshit because every day I got, I wore nice clothes. A lot of people, I would get dressed up. But that's just kind of who I am. But then in some ways, I was called out on that. Like we just wear sweatpants one day and, a sweatshirt. You can be like that. Don't always have to feel like you have to have yourself put together. And that kind of stuck with me because, yeah, that is true. I kind of feel like I always have to be put together. And really inside, I wasn't feeling like I was together at all. And so I was kind of like masking that. So that really helped me. And, there was a wonderful therapist there that used to do some of our classes, and she had a saying that says, "Stop being a super saver hoe." And that just really, I loved that because that was me. And I still find to do that, but now I do it because I feel like it's my calling. But I mean, the best thing that I learned there was that I matter. I found my worth. I didn't like myself very much, especially looking in the mirror, or, I just didn't like who I was. I joke oftenly that I'd be the first one voted off the island. If this was Survivor, I'd be the first one voted off the island because I do like to talk. I do like, I am attention to detail. And I used to be hard on myself for that instead of embracing that. And that's a gift. That God has allowed me to be like that. So yeah, I mean, and just the best thing I also got out of there is those fire pits. That's where the real therapy happens. And then also um, the brotherhood and sisterhood there. The relationships, in your trauma group or small groups broken down, and the relationship, you're hearing people's raw, true things that have happened to them. And the relationships that you have with those people will forever, there's no bond like that. And to me, I found that true meaning. It's hard to explain to like my friends and other people who haven't been there or have gone through this, is the true relationship. I mean, I still speak to those people occasionally. One of the guys had, said to me that that he put me down as his person, because he really didn't have, he was getting a divorce, things like that. And so, in case something was to happen to him, he wanted me to be the one that, he wanted me to be notified. And that just meant a lot. That was very touching to me. And the relationships is unbelievable.
Well, one thing I want to give a shout out to Tammy, for.
Tony's great too.
I burned a lot of brain cells through the years, drink a lot of whiskey. I don't do that no more. But anyway,
Good.
I remember Center of Excellence, a firefighter that's been through there before that lost her job, reached out to Center of Excellence to go back. Well, it couldn't work out. So the Center of Excellence got a hold of Tammy to get her help. And Tammy gave, the Worldwide Peer Support gave one of the volunteers a call. And they worked it out. They flew that young lady from Oklahoma all the way to Indiana, got her in a recovery home, got her treatment for 30 days, worked with her, and Tammy contacted her a few times where they text and worked it out. But Tammy is a go-to person on the Worldwide Peer Support. Even, we was talking before them. Sometimes we're like firefighters, paramedics. We can argue and fight, but when it comes down to the mission, we come together and then we kind of hug it out and work it out usually. But that's what this person that you're listening to now, Tammy, she has got a big heart. She also has boundaries too that she does, and I appreciate those. But I just wanted to give you a shout out and tell you that story a little bit, Tammy.
Thank you.
Is there some other people through the Worldwide Peer Support or through your own that's know you've been there that's contacted you about getting help? Yeah,
I mean, I'm, being in peer support in my department, and then also being the secretary and one of the facilitators for the Zoom meetings. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people reach out and just ask, if they're having issues with their marriage. Not that I can give the best marriage advice, but I think being a woman, sometimes they ask my opinion. But I'm probably not the best person to ask that either. But it's just, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of not an everyday thing, but it's happens often because I am very open about my journey. I'm very open about Worldwide Peer Support and the peer support in my department. Of that I'm there for anybody, and even if you're not in the fire service, I'm there for you. And that's just kind of how, at first I felt like a negative towards me, but it's now really my best quality and strength. And, when we do those, the Zoom meetings, and someone's having a hard time and, my kind of saying is that we're all badass rock stars. And because we are badass because we all, there's that whole suck it up buttercup and the stigma and things like that. But the people who are, who went and got help, they are the real heroes. You can run into umpteen burning buildings and save hundreds of children and women and men, but being able to truly sit down and say, I need help, is the strongest thing anyone can ever do.
Absolutely. And that, that brings us up to another question I ask everybody, Tammy. There's not necessarily a fire. We do police officers, military. There's somebody that's sitting in their room right now. They are that badass rock star first responder, but they don't know how to help themselves. They're either struggling with alcohol or drugs or PTSD, thinking about killing themselves. Their marriage is in shambles. Their job's on the line. They're sitting here not knowing what to do. What would you tell them right now, Tammy?
That to look in front of you, not behind you. That yes, at this moment times are hard, but it's gonna get better. It's gonna get better, and you have to work at it. But it's going to get better. And then I'm there with them along the way. I'm right there with them.
Absolutely. And if you want to see who some of our partners, you can go to worldwidepeersupport.org. You can see who our partners are. You can see the times of the Zoom meetings are, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Also, you can see who some of our sponsors, and Tammy's contact information is on there if you want to get a hold of Tammy. Or you can call, or you can email us at burnoutpodcast.org, and we can get in contact with Tammy or the Worldwide Peer Support or any of the partners that you see on our website. Tammy, here's something I also ask of all the guests. What's a statement or a phrase that keeps you going?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask this. So I've been kind of thinking about that. And I do kind of have two that are, but one of the best one for me is some people think that to be strong is to never feel pain. Truth is, the strongest people are the ones who feel it, understand it, and grow through it. And that's very, important to me. And then just because I'm a badass rock star, female paramedic, hated by many, loved by plenty, heart on her sleeve, fire in her soul, and a mouth she can't control.
I love that, too. That one right there, I like to lock on to that one. But, well, Tammy, man, thank you for being on here. Thank you for what you do for your own department, for what you do for your peer support, what you do for Worldwide Peer Support, and the heart that you have. And we're blessed to have you. Just don't change a thing. Keep moving forward and doing the next right thing, whatever that is for you. But thank you again for being on here.
Thank you. And when I was saying about I'd be the first voted off the island, but it's okay if I'm the first, because then I'll have other people to follow, and they're a bunch of misfits too. So we'll make our own island.
That's true. Well, thanks again. And I'd like to thank our sponsors, Turning Point, Madison County, Code Green, and Bridges of Hope. You can go on our website. You can find out more information about them. And also, I'd like to tell you about Worldwide Peer Support. Again, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Sundays, 8 p.m. If you want to meet Tammy there, you can go on there and meet her as a facilitator. But that brings us to the end of the podcast. I want to tell everybody, be safe. If you're thinking about suicide, dial 988 or go to our worldwidepeersupport.org. We got 2 numbers on there that you can call for support. But at this time, everybody go home, turn your radio off, and get some sleep. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Burnout. Burnout is brought to you by the Worldwide Peer Support. You can visit Burnout Podcast at burntoutpodcast.org or visit Worldwide Peer Support at worldwidepeersupport.org. Your host for Burnt Out is Skip O. Executive producer, Sean P. Neal. And produced by mypodcast.media.